Hi, friend.
Hi, friend. Are you ready
Ready for what?
to level up?
Okay, girl, let's get started. Friends, welcome to another podcast of Level Up with Raman and Alysha.
Hi, everyone. On today's episode, we'll be talking mostly to those of you who are way too comfortable in your jobs and your careers. And, sometimes people get too comfortable and then they don't want to progress or leave the company.
Yeah, and we've all either done it in our lifetime or we know a person who has. You finally get a new job and you're like, yeah, this is it. I'm gonna try to stay in this company for a couple of years, do the best I can. And then you're at a point of not knowing the difference of like growing and developing within your position to be promoted to the next position and moving up within a company, and you're just stuck in the same position for the next like 4 or 5 years. So there's a
I
huge
was going to
difference.
say, like 5 years later, you're still in that job.
Exactly. And that's when you should know, like, you're probably unhappy by that point because you really haven't gotten much of an increase in raise. Your job isn't challenging you anymore because you guaranteed know it from, front to back now because you've been doing it for so long. So there's no fulfillment in the job. So you're probably miserable. So if you're feeling these types of ways, and I'm not feeling challenged, I'm not feeling, fulfilled, I'm not happy to come into work. I may like my coworkers because they're like family and I love them, but that shouldn't be a reason to stay in a job.
Absolutely. We have both seen people be way too comfortable in their jobs. So I would say there's two types of people. There are type of people, and I think it's like the newer generation would be kind of more towards these type of people that do want career progression, do want to grow. They don't want to be in the same role for like more than 2 years. And there are those people, and some of like the older folks or that have been in their careers for like 30 plus years are a bit more comfortable with job security versus kind of growth, and they are okay with kind of doing the same job for 20 years. And when we think of that, like, how are you doing the same job for 20 years? But we see these people and they're like completely okay with it and they're so comfortable, and there are things about the job that they don't like and stuff like that. But I feel like there are several reasons that people do get too comfortable in their jobs. One is job security, so they're like, oh, I have my job, and it gives me the salary that I want, or the money,
It
the
pays the
whatever it
bills.
is, it pays the bills, and they're kind of
I've heard
okay
that
with
a
that.
lot.
Yeah. And then another very common thing that I've heard people say is, well, my job gives me a lot of job flexibility. So they don't want to leave, right? So I had a friend where, um, and it's Amrit, I'll just call her out on it. My friend Amrit was in the same job that I had started my first job with up until now. And she called me one day and was like, Raman, I'm really tired of this job. I'm not progressing, I'm not learning and stuff like that. But like she was comfortable with it because of the job flexibility, because, she didn't really have to work that much. She didn't have to really report in any hours. It was easy. It's basically like you're getting money for like, not doing much. So like how can you kind of complain about that? And she couldn't complain about even like getting too much of a pay raise, because she's like, I don't really do that much work, so like for what I'm doing, it makes sense. But now so many years have gone by and I was like, listen, Amrit, if you are planning to have this Monday to Friday life your whole life, these new girls are going to come in and they're going to be progressing and stuff like that, and you're going to be in the same place. Like if you got want to progress, you need to start that now, like your career development. And I feel like a lot of people might get too comfortable and then the whole career development thing like kind of phases out, or they like forget about it, or put it in the back burner. And that's what I think kind of happened. So after like an hour and a half conversation with her about, she needs to progress in her career. She hasn't progressed in like X amount of years because her job was not providing any progression, that she needed to leave the company and move on up. And you know what? I'm so proud to say that that conversation went really well because she got the job that she had applied for. and she finally left, like after like 8 years of this company or something. But I really had to like push her and be like, listen, like you're young, like these younger girls are gonna come in and they're gonna want to move on up and stuff like that. And then I'm like, you're gonna be kind of left behind. So you need to start developing your career if you want to keep up with the job market.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more with you because that's a huge thing. It's always going to be someone newer, more
Mhm,
affordable, and younger talent, right? And there was this TED talk I listened to a few years ago, and I forget who it was, but they were like, being comfortable is a good thing usually in the beginning of your job, which is great
mhm,
because you should feel comfortable enough to want to learn, to want to adapt and aspire, but it's the uncomfortable part that should still continue. There should still be a part of uncomfortableness because that's when you're still learning, you're still challenging, you're still growing, you're still pushing yourself and working towards something bigger. As soon as you don't feel uncomfortable anymore, that's when you know, okay, I've outgrown this position. I've outgrown this
mhm,
place. I am not going to aspire. I'm not going to be challenged. And I've seen it in peer reviews so much because I've conducted them at my last company.
mhm,
People go, oh, well, I am unhappy because this and this and this. And I've said it. I said it. And they were admins. They were from different ages. I had about 5, 6 admins reporting to me. And I said to them, I was like, okay, so what are you doing to progress further? What is it you're interested in this company? And none of them
mhm.
had a single thing to say. Not one of them had reached out to a manager in like their location, or me for that matter, to say, "Hey, I'd like to go into HR. I'd like to go into payroll. I'd like to go into fleet." I don't know, anything. Not a
Mhm,
single person did. And I was just like, but then how do you expect to want to move up within an organization when you're too comfortable in your spot that you're not doing anything beyond the 9 to 5 to try to job shadow someone or try to take on a new meeting or be part of that meeting just to learn something about that department? And that's what I
Amen.
like, and I'm so sick of it because I hear a lot of women, and I've done a lot of interviews with my current company that now, and I'm sorry, it is a woman thing because they do piss me off because then they throw in that I'm a mother, I have children, and I have all these things to do. Where do I have time to do it? But then you have
But then you
time.
also want to, like, what is it that you want then? You want to grow or you want to stay unhappy?
Yeah, and that's the part. I feel like women can do it all, and it's these women that put down the woman that can do it all. And that's why we have that stigma that does follow us sometimes. So, for example, I did an interview with an individual and, they sound middle aged. Okay. So they're both working from home, even though our facility has been opened.
Mhm,
And this job it was like a planner job. So you were required to be in person, which we're a health company. So we are essential. So we should
yeah.
be there. And we're taking all the precautions and everything. Even till this time, I've been going in and out because I need to be there to support my people, right? I'm in
Mhm,
HR. These individuals want an interview for this job. And the first question I bluntly asked was, but you haven't come into the plant. And they're like, no, because it's COVID. And I'm like, okay, but I've been there. And
mhm,
they're like, yeah, but we're just waiting till COVID is over and da 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 da. And I'm like, okay. Yet you're applying for a position that's solely based to be in the plant. You need
mhm,
to, be there for like production. You need to make sure what's being sent out to vendors is being done with materials.
mhm.
Yet you are still home. You have not
Yeah.
showed an interest to come in and make sure you're here, showing that you're present when 95% of the job is to be there in person. You
Yeah.
haven't been part of a single meeting in person. How would you do this?
It's like people just want things handed to them without doing the work,
That's the other
right?
problem. That's what it
Yeah.
is. And it's like, but then there are people who are willing to work very hard that don't get that position. And I don't think
Yeah.
that's fair whatsoever. You
That's
want one thing my VP always says, and I'm going to say something I like admire my VP so much. She reminds me a lot like my mom too. Her personalities are identical, and I don't think they're many years apart from each other. But
mhm,
one thing about her is that she's such a strong-headed, intelligent woman. And she is in a team of, so if anyone has been part of a smaller organization and is with them as they grow into a
mhm,
bigger one, I've been part of those like 2, 3 times in my career. This is my third time in this same position. The leadership team will always start off with mainly males, and they're not minorities. Okay,
Hmm.
because it depends on who created the company, and then it gets passed on to the CEO, and then you add in your VPs and directors, and
Yeah.
she's the only woman on the team. And
Mm.
they're not easy to deal with because I deal with them on a daily basis. But I give it to her. She stays strong to the point people are scared of her. And I admire her for that. Women are always
Nice.
looked at as weak individuals, but she isn't. And
Hmm.
that's one thing I love. So she definitely has always put a challenge out there for herself because she's always in tune with what's going on. She
Hmm.
stays against like anyone who's wrong. She makes her point clear and she works really damn hard for it. And
Nice.
one thing I'm really impressed with is that we're hiring a few directors right now and we're seeing a lot of women come into that field. And she's like, I didn't choose it, but she goes, they're the ones that are standing out the most. And it's the
Hmm.
passion for the job. So, what this is leading to, my point for this conversation, not about women and males, but the point is that you can be so passionate about doing something, but
Hmm.
making sure that when you are passionate about it, it's feeding into your passion to make you
Yeah.
happy too. And that's
Yeah.
also knowing the difference when you're comfortable and uncomfortable.
Yeah, people, they see a little discomfort and then they forget like what the bigger picture is. But if you understand your passion and what you really want to do, you can help that drive the uncomfortableness and be like, I'm uncomfortable, but this is what I want. And I'm gonna go get it.
Yeah.
And it's sad to say, but every company is different. Obviously, like larger corporations they have a different process in place when it comes to career development and performance and stuff like that than a lot of smaller companies, right? A lot of smaller companies, you don't really see too much of that career progression. And it's sad to say, but companies, as much as like they want to promote career progression, they also need some of those people that are willing to stay in their job and not complain and work on it for like 6 years, because it's also about like training, right? Every time you move somebody up, you got to move somebody into that position. You got to get a new person trained. And, sometimes companies do want that person who has 6 years, 10 years of knowledge, and, they have kind of that training in place, and they have, that person that knows their job and they will be there and they're reliable. And, that whether other people come in and out, you have that one expert person who's been there and knows the whole job and is going to be able to train other people. And I feel bad for that person. But companies kind of also do need that person, and it kind of sucks because when you're too comfortable plus you have a company like that, you might not progress anywhere.
So I agree with you on that, but I've always seen it as, and not so much as a downfall, but the person that's expertise in that position and is reliable is usually the person that will be internally promoted and considered for that next job too. That's leading up from
100%.
that position too, right? Because it's
Except
like
for when like the small companies, like they don't have those things in place, and
that's
then
true.
that person ends up basically staying there in that
For 20
job as
years.
the
Yeah.
expert in that job forever.
Yeah, that is true. And I guess it depends. And you need to know that. You need to kind of have an idea when you get into an organization. I feel like a lot of people, because we do a lot of interviews, and I know, I'm sure you've seen this too, where people, I get asked, oh, can I get the job description? You applied for the job. So that A tells me you're just applying for whatever at this point because you need a
Yeah.
job. You have no interest within the company. You haven't looked at the CEO to see who the top person is, where you are starting and where you want to go and map out your life if you plan on
Hmm.
investing yourself into this organization. An organization is investing in you and you're investing yourself into this organization too. Most people would be like, okay, what can I take away from this organization? Whether it be benefits, that's a bonus always. Whether it's something I can get free education for, then why not? I can progress my education while I'm here and they'll
Hmm.
pay for it and it's fulfillment. Or, you know, how am I going to get to that higher next level that I want, right? Because we all
Hmm.
start somewhere and we need to climb up the ladder. You can't just be stuck in that one position. And if you are and you're happy, kudos to you. But
Yeah.
Ramen and I are such go-getters that we refuse to either do that to ourselves and we refuse to allow those around us do the same thing. Just because we know that that fulfillment of like not gratitude, but the fulfillment of working so hard to achieve that next thing makes you
Hmm.
feel so great. Mind you, Ramen and I don't care for 9 to 5 jobs. So we do this more in our personal other side hustles, more so, right? But we're
Yeah.
also for people who don't see ourselves staying in a 9 to 5, we also aren't sticklers to stick in one position forever,
Mhm.
just because it suits the paycheck lifestyle or whatever. We still want it to be fulfilling where we're challenged every day, because you should live every day as your best day. So why go into
Yeah.
work and be miserable when you can
Mhm.
change that?
100%. Another thing that I hear about why people are too comfortable in their position is that they like the people that they work with.
Oh my God.
So I hear this all the
You and I
time.
did
So
this.
I know we did this. I've seen other people do this. And it's like you hate your job, but you like the people that you work with and you're comfortable with that. You have that fear of like now starting in a new company. What if I don't like the people in the new company? What if I don't like my new job? A lot. That's one thing people question a lot, right? It's like, am I going to leave my job that I'm semi okay with? I'm not growing to go into another job and I might not like it. And the fear of that can stop a lot of people from moving up in their career and getting a new job. And you and I have seen it so many times. When Alysha, the job that her and I worked at, the problem was that we loved our job, but we hated our job. Sorry, correction.
Yes,
I mean,
hated.
there was a point that we did like our job, but eventually by the end of it, we did not like our job. But we loved like working with each other. And then honestly, I think Alysha and I even had like a conversation one time that like, hey, we are going to stay friends after we leave here. Like, we can't let that stop us or like the fear of that stop us.
Yes.
And you know what? And it didn't stop us, and we've seen each other kind of go through other different jobs and stuff like that. And we're still here with each other. And people get comfortable with their work friends and stuff like that. And I think it's important to know that you can still keep those work friends. If they are your true friends, like outside work too, then you will remain to stay friends. And your coworkers should never be the reason you do not leave your job and you do not progress,
100%. I don't know,
because they will
Raman.
leave. Like
At
they will eventually leave. It's every man for themselves,
It
right?
is when it
You
comes
can't.
down to it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this, but at that job we're talking about, where Raman and I met, so we were like a family, and I've heard. Hi, friends. Raman and I just wanted to let you guys know about this app that we use. It's called Anchor. It's the easiest way to make a podcast. It's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer.
Yes, and it can be heard on all the main platforms and uploaded on them directly, such as Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. And you can start making money on Anchor right away.
Yeah, it's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to
Anchor.fm to get started.
Have a great week. Bye. I don't know if you remember Raman, but at that company, well, as for all of you that have been listening, Raman and I met at this company, and that's like kind of like where we started off. We've had many podcast talks about this. So the thing is, the people that we had met through this organization, we became a family. And, to the point where, like, honestly, we enjoyed going to work because we loved seeing each other.
Mhm.
And I don't think we cared too much about what everyone else thought. We would crack up jokes, we'd meet for coffee in the coffee break room. Like, we had good times, we had fun lunches. The one thing I hear from a lot of people, and I feel this way too, Raman and I know we both do. After we left that organization, our job was not for the purpose of making friends at that point. If we made a friend,
Mhm.
great, but we weren't looking for that same relationship dynamic. Um, and I hear that from everyone else I speak to that left the organization too. They're like, yeah, but nothing will ever be like that. And it's so true, because I think we were such a strong force in such a miserable place that all we had was each other to get through the day. And that's kind of like sometimes what you need. You need a team or a group of friends that will help go through the miserable till you get to the other side. And because
Mhm.
it's not that easy. Yeah, you can quit your job tomorrow, but you need a backup plan. If you have bills to pay in reality of life, you can't just quit your job tomorrow. It takes steps. If you
Yeah.
want to move up in a position, or you want to find a new organization to work for or start a business, all of that takes planning and steps. And you need a backup plan. At the end of the day,
Mhm.
we have bills to pay, and that's reality. And you need to make sure that you can fulfill that. You don't want to end up being in a bad position in your life. So make smart moves, start to plan. Do you need to tell your manager that you're searching for another job? No, not necessarily. It's not deceitful either, but it's always rightful and loyal to give 2 weeks notice no matter what you do, because that's what's required unless you signed a contract that says something else, you know? But it's the
Yeah.
steps you're taking to get to that point. The point of my like getting to know each other thing, whatever, working as friends in a company was that it's sometimes your friends will, because they're comfortable, they'll be like, no, don't go, stay. And I've seen friends do this to each other where they're
It's
like, no, no,
wrong. So
it's
wrong
so
to do
wrong.
that.
Very wrong. Because if
Because
they
you're
get
telling
it,
me if that friend gets a promotion or if that friend gets another job that's going to pay, they're not going to leave, which is
of
why I said it before and I'll say it again. Don't ever get too comfortable in a company and stay because of your coworkers. It has to be about you and your job.
Raman and I started looking at the same time, and it literally fell into effect. Like,
Hmm.
I think they were shocked that we both walked out around the same time, and other
Yeah.
people were still there, and everyone was shocked because we were around an environment that kept saying they were going to, but they never did. And we
Yeah.
didn't. We were like, fuck this, and we moved
Yeah.
on, you know? And Ramen, to the point you were saying that like you can stay friends outside of our work. Ramen and I, yeah, we did. It takes effort, you know. They're not
Mhm.
part of your day-to-day life. So it definitely takes effort. I do have to say Ramen is a very good person at doing that. So I think that's why it also really worked, because I'm terrible with staying in touch and I hate
So am
texting.
I, though. So am I.
Yeah, but I feel like, you know what? You taught me to do better in that sense, that if you really do genuinely care about someone, you will.
Yeah.
And I feel like that came a lot from you. But there was one friend that I did care about too, who we worked with, who basically said, I don't keep in touch with anyone after I leave an organization. Do you
Yeah.
remember that person?
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
So it's just like, some people just choose, okay, once I'm closing the door on the organization, then I'm closing it on everyone as well.
Hmm.
There's
You have
just
to
people
think of
like
your
that.
life like 10, 20, 40 years ahead.
Yeah.
And I think people need to get used to the uncomfortable and used to the fact that things will not be the same as they are in your next organization. But hey, you might get new, like the whole point of, getting uncomfortable, as Alicia mentioned right at the beginning of the podcast, was to continue growing, right? If you are too comfortable, that means you're not growing, you're not learning. So you need to get used to that uncomfortable feeling and understand that um, if my current organization is not giving me that career growth, then I do need to get uncomfortable and move into a new organization. And I'm not going to lie, like, you're absolutely right. That environment that we had at that company that we worked with, I never got it at anywhere else. Like, I didn't get those types of friendships, those laughs, or anything like that. So that part was different. I did let go of something kind of good, but for something that led me to where I am today. And where I am today is, with a much better position. It led me to, more money, more growth, more learning. And I'm so happy in the position that I am today. But it's like, if we didn't choose to get uncomfortable and leave that organization, and it was very uncomfortable for us, I think we both were very anxious about it because we were like fuck, like, what
It was
if
toxic. It was toxic.
like what yeah. And a lot of people, if they have a job that kind of gives them a lot of flex time and a lot of, like, come in whenever you want, you can leave whenever you want and stuff like that, it's hard to decide to, I think it's hard and it's a big step to decide to walk away from that, to go in an organization again where, okay, sorry, this is where I wanted to get to, where you have to prove yourself again. So I hear people say this a lot as well, because they're like, oh, well, when I go to a new company or whatever the case is, now I'm going to have to start from the bottom and prove myself again, or like build credibility and kind of like learn everything again. And people are just like not willing to learn again. Like, guys, at any job you go to, you're going to have to, there is a learning aspect to that. But just like how you're an expert at your job now, you're going to eventually become an expert at that too. So the uncomfort is a very short period of time for long term comfortable results. So,
Well, And I couldn't agree with you more because I think you and I are perfect examples of that. We had switched so many managers that we had to reapprove ourselves so many times that I
Yeah.
think now at this point you throw anything at us and we're like, bring it on, you know? And that's why
Yeah.
sometimes you have to look at things that happen in your career path as, you know, kind of like a blessing in the sense that, okay, this is actually just going to make me tougher or stronger. You know, that was a very high paced, stressful job Raman and I worked at. And I feel like anything after that is easy cakes for us because it's like, you know what? The demand was so high. We had micromanagers. You know, we had this ticket bullshit system and it was just so stupid. And, you know, you had to
Mhm.
multitask and don't take these things as like, oh my gosh, it was like the hardest thing in the world or like, oh my God, you know, I just hated it and I need release. Take it as a learning curve as, okay, you know what? I'm someone who can actually do these things and put it on your resume because it's going to attract other employers because, you know, at my company now, I find that like they think it's very fast paced. It
Mhm.
is, but not compared to what I'm used to. And that's because I worked for a bigger organization. The organization Raman and I worked for, the last
Mhm.
organization I worked for was very fast paced.
Mhm.
So this is kind of easy to me in the sense that like, yeah, they think it's crazy busy, but I'm okay. You know, but it's because we've dealt with so much more fast paced. So you take it as a learning curve. You take it as a strength now. It's something you might have hated, but it's your strength and use it
Yeah.
to your favor, you know? Use it as your selling point to sell yourself for this new position. And it's just the way of looking at things and how, you know, every company is different. Nothing will ever be the same at each company. I will guarantee you that. It is definitely never the same.
Mhm. And you know, don't be afraid to be the newbie and
Yes.
kind of start at the bottom again. So, I mean, if you are thinking that you are too comfortable in your job and if you've thought about leaving like 5 million and one times, and you haven't, we really hope that this might be the push that you need to leave your job and start looking at a new job. If you need a phone consultation like I did with Amrit, where I spent 1 hour on telling her why she needs to leave her job, I'm more than happy to do that. You have to progress in your career. If you are not progressing, if you're wasting like 8 years of your life on the same job, that think of it this way: there's somebody else spending those same 8 years probably progressing through like two, three roles. So they're already ahead of you versus you have been sitting in that same job and now you're trying to progress in your career. So always look at the next role. Always look at, you know, if your company is not providing you the growth or the happiness, um, it's okay to leave. It's okay to get uncomfortable and start in a new environment. We know it's hard because there's so many uncertainties that about a new job and it can make you nervous and anxious, but also it might be for the better and it might be the best decision you have ever made. So we really hope that you are ready to get uncomfortable.
Yeah, definitely. So get back out there and be uncomfortable. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in and listening to how to better improve your life with Raman and Alicia. If you're not already following us on Instagram, please do at Level Up with Raman and Alicia. If you have any tips or concerns or questions and you need some answers, we're definitely always willing to answer and help where we can. So please email us at ramanandalicia@gmail.com. Have a great week, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great week. Bye.
Bye.